Vandeham Shri Guru Shiyataf Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavams Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitam Cha. This is a very impressive room, Prabhupada's room here. I think Prabhupada didn't personally come here, is it?
No, that place was Swiss.
He came to Zurich.
Yeah, he passed by, but the center was in Geneva at that time.
The center was in Geneva. And Prabhupada, he passed through, or he stopped, he did some preaching or any program here?
No problem.
He stopped, and what did he do here?
He was on the way to St. Moritz.
Oh, right, yeah. He just stopped in the station, was it?
Yeah.
Something like that. He came through. Anyway, Zurich is purified by Prabhupada having come here. Can I come a little closer because my voice is not very strong. It used to be strong, but that was a long time ago. Yeah, Prabhupada came here. That's purified Zurich. It's a holy place, and so many books have been distributed. Actually, all over Switzerland, so many books. In Zurich itself, many books have been distributed.
As well,
yeah, I guess it would have to be, considering so many books have been distributed in this country, and the population is what? It's only 4 million, something like that? 7 million. Yeah. Not much. I just came from Slovenia, which is, I think, about 2 million. All these little countries, they're like. And living in India, it's like, they're let me see, there are 6 cities in India with a population more than Switzerland. So, at least 6, maybe 7. Maybe, I'm not sure, Ahmedabad, probably, yeah, maybe it's 7. Ahmedabad must be, 7 cities then. So, anyway, there are more books being distributed here in Switzerland than any of those cities, I think. Bombay, they distribute a lot of books, especially from the Juhu Center. But in Bombay itself, a lot of books have been distributed, right in Bombay city. But their parties also go out. Difficult to say. Anyway, it's a holy place because of Prabhupada's books being distributed here. Harinam, you are all being here. The deity is being worshipped here. This is a very impressive room. Obviously, it's not as big as some of Prabhupada's quarters and darshan rooms in other places, like in Bhakti Vedanta Manor. There's a very nice room in Juhu, Bombay. Even actually Prabhupada's darshan room in Vrindavan, it's not much bigger than this. It looks very impressive, this woodwork. I guess in Switzerland everything should be first class, right? Even more than Germany. What's that book? Die Kunst zu Leben, the something of life. What's that?
The Art of Living.
The Art of Living means to punch someone. It's a picture of Krishna killing Kamsa on the cover.
Yes, but I know that it's like...
That's like for Kung Fu fans or something. Maybe you distribute that to skinheads or what. The Art of Living. The picture should give an idea what's in the book. You should just go around throwing people on the floor and punching them out. It's an unusual picture to choose for the cover of a book.
Yeah.
What's the topic?
It's just like a summary of some of the Krishna books, some stories from Krishna books inside like a...
It's a small anthology. Yeah. Interesting. Devotee told me once they were distributing Back to Godhead, and on the cover was a picture of Balaram on the killing, which demon was it? Pralambasura. And Balaram's white, and Pralambasura was depicted as a very black body, and this devotee was white-bodied, and he was distributing in Detroit in the black area of You have to be careful which kind of covers you choose for the books. Anyway, I'm sure, like the skinheads will like it. Football fans. You don't have any football hooligans in Switzerland, do you? Too civilized for that. In Germany, I think they have them. I remember I was in Germany once, there was a bunch of football hooligans. Anyway, my country, I think, England, that's the homeland of football hooliganism, isn't it? Krishna, Krishna. Difficult to distribute books to football fans, isn't it? You ever tried distributing books to football fans? You ever tried that? They're usually not the best candidates. Actually, some years ago, I was on Janmashtami, just this time, I was in Helsinki. We went out on Harinam, and there was a whole gang of football fans from Northern Ireland. That there was some international match, Finland versus Northern Ireland. But they were very favourable to us. They saw us just singing Hare Krishna with us, and actually some of them spoke to me. They like us very much, actually, somehow or other. So, you never know. Even the football fans can become devotees. So, what are we supposed to be talking about? Brahmacari. Oh, one thing, this yantra. What kind of yantra is that? Any idea?
There is one congregational devotee, Madan Mohan. So he's like making his livelihood by this vastu, counseling people how to. So and he was like kind of offering his service to the temple and doing some adjustment and some energy.
Do you know which yantra this is?
No.
Yantras are meant for bestowing auspiciousness and removing inauspiciousness, but when Prabhupada's here, it's ridiculous. Prabhupada can give auspiciousness to the yantra, not vice versa. It's that's why I say you'll never see this in. No one. Actually, I never even heard the word vastu until after Prabhupada left. It's become popular recently, even in India. It wasn't. I never heard of vastu until recently in India. Recently means in the last 15 years or something. In India, it was also maybe in South India some people were doing it, but it's become. I think maybe it's because it's come from the West, Feng Shui, and I don't know exactly, but definitely Prabhupada, he wasn't promoting these things. I mean, I'm not saying that you can't have it. It is something. It's like Ayurveda and astrology. It's there in the Vedic culture, but it's not really our thing. It's not the thing that, it's the International Society for promoting knocking out windows and putting them somewhere else. So that's what they do in India. The Vastu guy comes and he says, you have to knock this window out and move it there, and then they spend 20,000 rupees. And it doesn't make any difference, except that someone got 20,000 rupees and the Vastu man got something also. So you chant Hare Krishna, all auspiciousness will be there. Although temples, or houses, when they're built, they're traditionally built in consideration of all these things. So it can be utilized also. But the main thing for giving auspiciousness and driving out inauspiciousness is just chant Hare Krishna. That's it. That will drive out millions of inauspicious influences just by having kirtan, having a strong, pure atmosphere. And it's the same thing. Actually, you wanted me to speak about Brahmacari life? It's the same thing. It's, like I said, there's not really that much to say. I mean, I put everything in that book, but if you have to all the time preach that Brahmacari, you have to be a Brahmacari, if it's like such a struggle, then you're not Brahmacharis. Brahmacari life means blissful. Of course, there's the famous mind also, which always preaches to us. So we may need some other preaching also. But otherwise, Brahmacari life means chant Hare Krishna and be happy. That's all. We're here, we have a purpose. Read these books. If we read these books, Brahmacari means a student, so we should study a lot. and study Prabhupada's books assiduously, very carefully, and the inspiration and the guidance we get from that, then automatically all inspiration will come by studying Prabhupada's books. You all came from reading Prabhupada's books, is it? How did you come to this International Society for Krishna Consciousness? You read Prabhupada's books? Yourself?
Yes.
Yeah. Yourself? Yeah. So it's a decision that you made. It's a big decision to become a brahmachari in an ashram of the Hare Krishna movement. There's no doubt about it. It's a major change in everything you do and everything that we think, our whole outlook. It's not everybody's going to do it. So far we didn't find many people doing it, but having made that decision, we should always consider, why did I come here? Consider in a positive way that I came here because on reading these books that I understood that life is meant not for eating, sleeping, mating and defending, but for understanding who are we, who is supreme, what is our relation with the Supreme Lord, what is reality, what is truth, atato brahma jignasa. Now that we have attained this human life, we should inquire into the nature of reality. So we should always remember that, and we can look around us and see life may appear to be easier or better, but it's not, which is why you already realize that, right? Which is why you're here. The whole material world, even in Switzerland, is miserable. It's Switzerland, it's supposed to be like, here's Switzerland. It's like Europe, there are so many countries, but Switzerland is supposed to be so prestigious. There's so much money here. Probably there must definitely be more money here, or gold, than per capita than any other country in the world, even if it doesn't belong to Swiss people. But it's stashed away here. So people think themselves sophisticated. They're sophisticated sausage eaters and beer drinkers, right? They're very sophisticated. They eat their sausages. What do they call it here in German? Sausage? Version. I can't say. No need, I guess. I guess I can get through life without knowing the German word for sausage. I could survive in this world. Yeah, but there's this feeling that we're very cultured and very sophisticated and very intelligent and very prosperous, but it's miserable. Whatever words I just said, you can just take the antonym of every one and that will be the actual description. Cultured, what culture? What culture is there in eating sausages? Sophisticated, yeah, it's superficial. That's the point. Everything is superficial in this material world. And Krishna consciousness is reality. And we have to strive for that reality. That's all. That's our life. Understand, this is real. Krishna is real. This world has not come into being simply by chance out of nothing, as we are supposed to believe. There was nothing, and by chance we're all sitting here today. It's nonsense. And then you get the people who believe in God, and mostly, I mean, we may not say this outside, but this Christianity, Islam, it's also, I mean, the basic principle that there's a God, okay, but otherwise it's very ignorant, and you can see that because they're also eating sausages. If you know God, then why are you eating sausages? Or even if you're a health food fanatic or something, if you don't know Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam, if you don't have the knowledge of Krishna consciousness, then so many strange ideas. This Switzerland, this Calvinism. It's still strong. That was Calvin was in Geneva, wasn't it? Was it? I'm not sure. Bern, maybe. I think not in Zurich. You don't know the history of Switzerland, the religious history. No, it was Geneva, wasn't it? Calvin was there. So hardcore Protestant, anti-Pope, but pro-Pope or anti-Pope. They have no spiritual knowledge. Even people who believe in God, they don't know. They don't know, and mostly they don't want to know. It's just that He's there and He blesses us, and that's all. That's about as far as it goes. So this is the first time in the history of this day of this cycle, this Kali Yuga, that real knowledge is being given. These books are any line we can open anywhere. For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends, but for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. Wherever we open Prabhupada's books, we'll find in there knowledge. It's not only superior to anything that we'll find in the whole of the Western culture, civilization, literature, but they never even imagined such things. They don't even have any concept. The mind is your friend or your enemy. They think they are the mind. They don't realize that the mind is to be controlled. This psychology, it's very big in the modern age. That's another one. There's some devotees are into Vastu, some are into Ayurveda, some are into astrology, some are into psychology. That's a big one. Right? But the whole of Western psychology, they don't have any idea. Their whole idea is just that we have to adjust the mind so we can be a well-adjusted mudha and go on with the world and be polite and nice and not throw people on the ground and punch them. Krishna does that. And just adjust to this material world. In other words, how to be a well-behaved madman. That's psychology, because the whole world is mad. Parabhavastava bodhajata yavanna jignyasata atma tattvam. This is Rishabde's instructions, that as long as we don't inquire into the nature of the soul and nature of reality, then all our endeavors are simply end in defeat. It's living a very sophisticated life, and then you become a cat or a dog. So they think that just to be adjusted to the world, but the Vedic concept or the Bhagavad Gita psychology is to understand that, first thing to understand, we don't belong here at all, and if we think that we belong here, then we're insane. I was just reading this morning that Prabhupada so many times gave that example, that there was a case in court. Prabhupada was aware of. There's an actual case where a man, he pleaded, it was a murder case, and he pleaded innocent on the grounds of insanity. So then the, whatever it was, I don't think they had psychologists in India at that time, but anyway, someone was called to inspect him, and he said, the inspector told the judge, yes, he's insane, but throughout my life I've been examining so many people, as far as I can see, they're all insane. So if you want, you can release him on the grounds of insanity. But as far as I can see, everyone's insane. So Bhagavad Gita psychology is to recognize that the uncontrolled mind is the only enemy in this world. And it's not the point is not to adjust our mind to this world, but to purify the intelligence so that we stop trying to adjust to this world and adjust ourselves to Krishna, to be the servant of Krishna. The very endeavor to enjoy this world is the cause of all our problems. And they call psychology being well adjusted so that you can go on with a life of sense gratification. Isn't it madness? The madman, Freud, he was the founder, acharya of this psychotherapy. He's a madman, this Oedipus complex, his idea. Madman, you know that? He has this idea that every man is sexually attracted to his mother. Just crazy. Yesterday I was speaking with one devotee. He's a doctor, and his wife, she's also a doctor. It's Murari Gupta. So he told me when they met in medical school. So he told me when they were studying together for their exams, they would just laugh. They weren't even devotees at that time, but they just thought it was crazy. This man is so influential in the world. Freud, his influence is so great in the world. This whole sexual revolution was the idea you should just enjoy yourself, and then Freud, one of his main ideas is that we shouldn't have any taboos on sexual acts. Just if it feels good, do it. In other words, be an animal. And he's been very influential. The sexual revolution was largely based on that. Just enjoy. Why bother with all this marriage, this, that, and the other? And if any kids come along, well, you can always abort them and have fun. And he's so influential. He's just a crazy man. So read Prabhupada's books, because we're all contaminated by all these mad ideas that we've imbibed. Not only imbibed, it's been rammed into us since before we are born. Even in the womb, while your mother's watching television, you're getting all that nonsense in the consciousness. So, yeah, read Prabhupada's books and keep steady in that. We have a great mission. We believe Prabhupada's books also. If we don't read them, and then we start to think that maybe the material world's a nice place. Prabhupada said he was shown, once he was shown a copy of Time magazine. Do you get that in German also? Time magazine? Or you have your own? What is it? There's famous German magazines.
There is also Spiegel, Stern.
Yeah, there are a few of them. They're even... I've heard of them. There was some case of Hitler's diaries were sold to one of them. They found Hitler's diaries. This was, 20 years ago. One man found Hitler's diaries and he sold them for like 1 million Deutschmarks or something to one of these magazines. And then they found it was a forgery. It was being serialized in one of these magazines. So, Prabhupada, he saw this Time magazine. It's the biggest selling magazine in the world, I think, or an international magazine. And it's basically an American propaganda tool. And not just for America, but for the whole modern way of life. Prabhupada looked at it a little bit and he said, our devotees, they shouldn't read this because it makes the material world seem real. If you read this, you start to think it's real. And sometimes you can tell, actually. One devotee mentioned to me once, he said, you can tell what someone's been reading by what their class they give. Some people give, this morning is a lecture from the morning newspaper. But even the attitudes, you see in our movement, devotees have different attitudes. I was told in Alachua, maybe you've heard of that, there's a big community of devotees in Alachua in America, that some devotees, they're strong Democrat supporters and some are strong Republican supporters. And why are they supporting either of them? It means they're reading the newspaper. Otherwise, if you read Prabhupada's books, why do Democrat meat eater and cow slaughterer or Republican cow slaughterer? There was a nice article in Bhakti Godhead some years ago, Sureshwar Prabhu. He was living on the farm and he wrote an article. He had a discussion with the cows, who he should vote for. And the cows said, "Don't vote for any of them. They're all vote for them if they'll stop killing us." So I sent him that article actually, just before the last election or 2 elections ago. I sent him that article as a reminder, and he said, "Oh, I was going to vote. Good thing you reminded me." Not to, because in one purport, Prabhupada writes that devotees, they should not vote for people unless they're going to stop cow slaughter. They should not vote for cow slaughterers. It's right there in Prabhupada's books. So yeah, if we don't read this, all the time we're getting something coming into our mind, isn't it? Someone's saying something to us, or we read something. If we're not reading, then we're reading the newspaper, or hearing something, this, that. But Prabhupada's books are our standard. So if we don't hear that, then we'll hear other things. And it seems in our movement today, a lot of devotees are reading a lot of other things, and they're more interested in if they come in someone's house and they say, well, you have to move this here and move that there, instead of telling them, you have to chant Hare Krishna, and then everything will be okay, they tell them, well, you move this here, move that there, and you cover up this, fill in this window, put some bricks, and move the window over there, and then everything will be okay. Instead of telling them to chant Hare Krishna, or they say, well, actually, you're going through your Rahu period, but never mind, I'll give you some gem. Tell them to chant Hare Krishna, but they become caught up in a whole different way of thinking, and it's Vedic. Or some of them are not Vedic, like psychology, or vote Republican, or whatever. So, at least as brahmacharis, come here and be a brahmachari. Don't be a vyabhichari. Vyabhichari means lampard. What's that called? Debauchee. Sex monger. It literally means Mang chayo vyabhicharena bhakti, avyabhicharini bhakti, means without being diverted to anything else. And vyabhichari means someone who's diverted to everything else. It literally means a degraded person. So be a brahmachari. Atato brahma jignasa. Inquire about the absolute truth. That should be the goal of all our works. Kamasya nendriya priti. What is that? What is that? Kamasya nendriya priti. Labho jiveta yavata. Nartha. I can't remember what's wrong. I'm not a brahmachari. I can't remember my verses. Where is that? Get the first canto of Bhagavatam. You should. It's an important verse. It doesn't have to be in English, in any language.
Only a German one.
Yeah, it's alright. Kamasya nendriya pritiya abho jiveta yavata nartasya. Labho jiva, is the important point. It's all important. Jivasya tattva jignasa narto yascheha karma bihi. Life should not be lived for fulfilling desires for sense gratification. Having got this human form of life, we should live only for the sake of inquiring into reality. Tattva jignasa. Nothing else should be the goal of our works. Kamasya nendriya priti labho jiveta yavata. Jivasya tattva jignasa. This is the essential line. Life is meant for inquiring into the nature of reality. Narto yascheha karma bihi. Nothing else should be the goal of our works. So, Hare Krishna. Any questions? Read by, you have that Brahmachari book, you can read that. Do you have any copies?
Most of I guess everyone's have a temple, I think.
Yeah, so if you want, you can read that. Read Prabhupada's books. Any questions about all this? Or anything else? I don't know anything about Vastu, so I'm not going to speak about that. But I think it's Prabhupada, he wouldn't be impressed by this. I think you should be. At least in Prabhupada's room. I mean, someone wants to do some service like that, but Prabhupada wasn't a great fan of these things. If it's a Sri yantra, then you can have a picture of Sri, Radharani, Radha Krishna together. That's what Prabhupada liked. On the wall, there should be nice pictures, nice paintings. Yeah. I had a question.
To that point that we should not read newspapers and something like that. For example...
okay, I'll qualify my statement. It's not that it's totally banned, but it's not that we spend our lives in the newspaper. It's also important, as we're preaching in the world, to have some idea what's going on in it. But we don't have to spend 3 hours reading the whole newspaper. I generally look at the headlines daily, almost every day. And then I look to see if there's something which may be of interest for preaching or for... I've been looking at there's some big storm coming up on the east coast of America. I'm supposed to fly there in 2-3 days. So my flight might be cancelled if there's a hurricane. So like that, this kind of thing. You can look to see. Many years ago, this must have been 76 or 77, I was in our temple in London. I was talking to a guest and he mentioned some name and I said, who? And he mentioned the name again. I said, who? And he said, the Prime Minister. I didn't know the name of the Prime Minister of England. And he must have thought I was pretty stupid. And I mean, it was in England. I'm born in England, raised in England, and I was so out of touch that I didn't even know the name of the Prime Minister. So, yeah, and actually, that was my fault. I should have known that much. If you're living in a country and you don't know the name of it's the name that everyone will know. So, what's the name of the leader here?
Of course, there are 7 leaders. There's
Oh, you don't have one leader here? It's
7
leaders. Well, you can't be expected. Probably most people don't know all 7. There's no clear leader, huh? Yeah. I mean, maybe in Slovenia or something. But in England, seeing as it's an important country in the world, and the Prime Minister of England is an internationally known figure, and if you're living in the country and you don't know his name. So that's just an example. We shouldn't be so out of touch with the world that we don't know even some basic things that are going on in it. It can be useful for preaching also to know some details. It depends who you're preaching among. I mean, apart from world news, which is always changing, there's in India we meet a lot of people who are really enamored by science. So if you have some kind of background knowledge of science, there could be. I find it's useful. I mean, I don't know very much, but I can speak with people in such a way that they think I know more than I do. Like that. Just like they think science is all definitive, but then we can tell them, well, by definition, for the last 90 years or so, there you have Heisenberg's uncertainty principle and quantum physics, which is, it's all based on uncertainty and non-definitiveness. And for instance, just a small thing like that. So, does that answer I preempted your question. But the basis of our study has to be Prabhupada's books. And if we're fixed in that, then according to our capacity and according to our need for preaching, we can study so many other things. I mean, Suhotra Swami, he was like a walking encyclopedia of practically everything that went on in the world, and all kinds of ancient and modern, especially philosophy. He was very well learned in so many things, but he was, at the same time, he was very much fixed in Prabhupada's understanding, the Vedic understanding. But like I say, according to capacity and need, not everyone has his capacity. Yeah, anything else? Yeah.
Right, in the beginning you mentioned that Zurich was a very big place in the past. A lot of preaching was going on, Buddhist preaching.
Yeah.
So, as you can see, we're a new generation. They're not so senior devotees. May I ask you for some inspiration to re-establish a strong Brahmacari ashram?
Well, it's very inspiring to see all of you here right now. I'm inspired. It's not so common in Europe to have any brahmacharis. In fact, in some places it's like almost not wanted. So good, stay brahmachari, build it up. Good. So you go out on Harinam regularly, is it? Distribute books. Yeah, good. If you are brahmacharis, if you're actually brahmacharis, that means it should be blissful. You can't artificially be blissful, but that will attract others to come also. So, Jai, Hare Krishna. I'll finish this.